Welcome to Bacon Shorts by Bacon Sports. This is Rob Cressy. This is episode 15. And today I've got my man, Vegas Insider, Jason Logan from Covers.com. And he is here to talk about the NFL Week 7 games from a sports betting perspective. Jason, who is your hashtag random athlete of the day?
Well, I'm wearing the jersey today. It's Ron Francis. Whalers, Penguins, played for the Canes, played for the Maple Leafs. He's my hashtag random athlete. This guy is probably the most underrated NHL player of all time. He's fifth on the points list, and he's never in the conversation when it comes to the greatest of all time. Just a bit of an underassuming guy, and Ron Francis. Great. Hall of Fame 2007.
Being from Pittsburgh, of course I love me some Ron Francis, so I'm all about that pick. And it's, I guess, I don't know if it's ironic's the word, but you and I did not coordinate that we were going to be wearing hockey jerseys today. This just so happened to happen.
It's a Hockey Friday.
It's a Hockey Friday.
Cool. Which is every Friday here in Canada.
Right. My hashtag random athlete of the day and has a Canadian feel to it. It's his birthday today, Doug Flutie.
Nice.
Yeah. How about that?
Stamps. Yeah, he's right up there as far as the top CFL players. We love him.
Him and Rocket Ishmael.
Calvillo, Allen. I think Doug Flutie is like an honorary Canuck up here.
Right. Does Warren Moon work? Does Warren Moon?
Warren Moon gets a lot of love too.
Boy, that guy could throw a deep ball.
You know it.
All right. So, like we do every week, Jason's in the house, and we are going to talk about the NFL games for Week 7 from a sports betting perspective. First, let's get to this, your prop pick of the week.
All right, I found some fun prop odds at sportsbook.ag, just because there are quite a few undefeated teams. You still have the Broncos and the Bengals, the Patriots, the Panthers, and the Packers. Now, the Broncos, Bengals, and Packers are all on bye weeks this week, so they're going to stick around. And you got the Patriots and the Panthers are in action this week. So anyway, they have odds up on which team will go undefeated, and you can either wager on 16-0, a perfect regular season, or you can go for the full Monty, the 19-0, all the way to the Super Bowl, unblemished. So here are the odds. You can wager on will a team go 19-0, which is that pays out at plus 1,500, and 16-0 is at plus 600. So odds makers are, they're not putting themselves out there as far as this prop goes. They think maybe one of these teams has a good shot at going undefeated, at least in the regular season. Now, if you want to break it down by team, the Broncos to go 16-0 are 25,000. So that's a spicy meatball right there. And if they were to go all the way 19-0, win the Super Bowl, plus 50,000. So wow. You could, buy yourself a nice summer home if you put enough money down on that one. The Bengals plus 3,500 to go 16-0, plus 7,000 to go 19-0. The Patriots plus 1,400 to go 16-0, and plus 2,800 to go 19-0. So they're definitely the one team that the books are being very cautious about. We've seen them go undefeated before, the regular season, obviously, and then they get to David Tyree with the old football to the helmet. The Panthers, plus 15,000 to go 16-0, plus 25,000 to go 19-0. And the Packers, they rounded out plus 2,000 to go 16-0, and plus 4,000 to go 19-0. So it's maybe a Packers-Patriots Super Bowl with unblemished records on the line. That would be the greatest game ever.
Right. For me, I would take the Denver Broncos as my roulette chip there because they have a good defense now and their offense is atrocious right now. So let's just say it improves and isn't garbage the whole time.
It looks like it can only get better at sometimes. Yeah.
Right. So there's got to be value there, right?
Sure. Yeah. The defense is keeping them in it.
And because the defense is in it, they'll be in every game despite the offense. So you know at least what the Broncos are. So if I'm thinking about, all right, if I don't want to take the Patriots, if I want something with longer odds, you're like, all right, Peyton Manning's not the same, but at least he can maybe mold this into more efficiency on offense. Let the defense do their thing like a better version of the Ravens.
Yeah, and then that AFC West just isn't what it used to be. I mean, the Chargers aren't world beaters. The Raiders have improved, but they're not terrific. And Kansas City looks like one of the worst teams in the league right now. So there's definitely a nice soft cupcake schedule for them to rip through the division at least.
Right. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So, switching to a different topic, there was a crazy college parlay last week with one hell of a finish. Let me in on this story.
Talking with Jason Symbol, he's the vice president of risk management for CG Technology in Las Vegas. They run books at the M and the Venetian, the Tropicana, which just got purchased by another company, but they're still going to run that book there. The guy came in, put down $50 in an 18 parlay to win $11,000. So here's what he had. He had over 7.5 in Jays Royals. This is on Saturday, by the way. Last Saturday. He had over 54.5 in Bama, Texas A&M. He had Bama minus 3.5. He had over 54 in Oklahoma, Kansas State. He had Oklahoma money line. He had Miami, Florida money line. He had over in 42 in the Michigan State game. And the final play of this parlay, the final game to make it all pay off, was Michigan State money line. So obviously you saw the botched punt attempt. They pick up that fumble. They run it in. Incredible finish. Probably one of the most improbable finishes in college football. And this guy wins $11,100 on a $50 18 parlay.
So,
thanks to my Spartans.
A few questions with this. One, he snuck by. Oklahoma won 55-0 over Kansas State, right?
I'm not sure of the final score.
I think it was because I noticed the bounce back. Two.
Usually with these crazy parlays, there are a few close calls, a few sweats and stuff like that. But yeah, this one at the end, I could only imagine this guy just putting his hands in his head and thinking, oh my God, this I hit every single game on this parlay except for this game. And then all of a sudden, the miracle happens, and you're $11,000 richer.
Did the blocked punt in Michigan State affect the over/under?
You know what? I don't think he had the over on 42. I think it was already over by that point. I'm not sure.
Right. That is ridiculous. Can you imagine the elation that guy is feeling while that's happening? I wonder if he was even watching.
It would be one of those just incredible. I mean, not only do you win a nice chunk of cash, but I mean, you got a story that you can tell at bars and parties for the rest of your life. I mean, can't put a price on that type of finish and that type of win. Never have one like that again in your life.
That's awesome. So it's really interesting, this guy's version versus the guy you told either a week or two ago who pretty much smooth sailing the whole way.
Yeah. The other crazy parlay with CG Tech, they were impressed by that fella because he had zero sweats on the game. This one, a couple close calls, and then all of a sudden, some butterfingers by the punter, and you're in the money.
Which of those two, assuming it was the same payout, what would you rather your day go? Nice and calm, or for you to win it on the highs and lows of? Well,
the highs and lows. I mean, that's a lot. A lot of the reason that's why we do sports betting, whether it's 18 parlay or just a $10 bet on Thursday night football. You want the highs and lows. That makes for a good story, right? That, like I said, can't put money on that story. Like that story is incredible. That's an $11,000 story. So Give me the highs and lows. That's why we do this.
Yeah, I was like, hey, do you remember that day when I hit that 18 parlay and I didn't even get off the couch or sweat at all? It's not that good of a story.
Easiest money you made, right?
Right. All right. So who are the sharps betting this week in the NFL? Let's get to the NFL games.
Sure. The wise guys actually all over my Cowboys this week, which you've got Matt Castle coming in. But they've shaken up a couple things. They're coming off the bye week. They're looking at Christy Michael to run a little more. I'm interested to see what this guy can do compared to Joe Randall and obviously Dunbar's out. So they've got to kind of shake things up. But what I do really like is Randy Gregory, the rookie defensive end. He's expected to come back this week from a high ankle sprain. And this guy was a pass rush monster at Nebraska. And then all of a sudden, he played this first game and he looked great. He was getting pressure on the quarterback, and then he rolled his ankle. The same night Dez went down against the Giants. And now you have Greg Hardy back on the other side too. So I'm really, really interested in this pass rush. The Sharps have actually bet this one down. It opened at 5 and it's down to 3.5. The Cowboys are still a very public team too, so this could continue to drop as we get closer to Sunday.
Oh man, the the square in me is like, oh, nothing like betting on Matt Castle on the road to win a game
at least the one thing with Castle is he's a little more accurate quarterback, and he can get the ball downfield. So,
all right,
and that's something that Brandon Weeden just couldn't do, and defenses would just throw everything up front and didn't have to worry about the deep ball.
Are there any other games they're on?
The Bills. They're on the Bills. The London game. So if you want to wake up early and catch that one, I think it's like a 6:30 game in Vegas. Some of the places are open. Some of them do have tellers at the window. So if you are in Las Vegas, they're going to be there from I think they open at 6 or 5:30 on those days. And then some of them offer the mobile wagering, which does have a time limit on it. But check with if you are betting mobile in Vegas, check with your provider and see if they're going to be able to take wagers that early.
And what I see right now is the Bills are favored by 4.5. So, all right, let's go on the flip side. Who is the most public team this week?
The Cardinals. That Cardinals game, that's the Monday nighter. It moved from 7.5 to 9. There's going to be a lot more money to come in on this game before Monday, but you will see some parlays, a lot of parlays tied to Arizona. Just because it's Arizona and the Ravens are just been the Ravens. This is a tough travel spot for them again. They didn't stay out west like they did last time when they had back-to-back games out west. They went back home, so now they've got to travel all the way back to the desert. After losing in San Francisco, I had San Francisco money line last week, which was my
nice
shining moment. Yeah, I just didn't like the situation, and the Ravens they're a prideful organization, but they're desperate for a win here, and I don't know if they're going to get it from the Cardinals.
So one thing that I'm thinking is that there's just so much hate on the Ravens right now. Is there an opportunity that I looked at some of their stats, and I think the Ravens have lost every game by 6 points or less.
Yeah,
so they're close losses, and I get that their season looks to be done, but just when everyone counts them out, the Ravens still have Joe Flacco and Harbaugh at coach, and despite what we think about their defense and all of this, sometimes when I just hear so much hate going on something, I'm like, well, is this an opportunity where maybe they don't win outright, but at least they keep this a little closer than we think?
Well, yeah, we talked about zombie teams a couple of weeks ago, and they definitely could be a zombie team. Like I said, they have a bye week coming up. They'll be able to kind of retool, and I think they've played 5 of their first 7 games on the road, which is just a very unfair schedule for them, especially with a lot of these trips from coast to coast. Those really tax the team, and it's a lot of travel. It's a lot of time away. You're not sleeping in your own bed. And you have to actually consider some of the off-field things too. When you're away that much as a player, you also have things at home that you have to worry about and handle. So the focus is not always on football when you're traveling that much. So second half of the year, when we see the Ravens come back, they're going to have a home-heavy schedule. And like you said, a lot of those close games, maybe they kind of iron out the wrinkles, and those close games become close wins.
So let's put the Ravens in the back of our head for a little bit later in the year.
Yeah, Halloween's coming up. Could be a nice little zombie team.
All right. What game are the books sweating the most?
Right now it's Falcons and Titans, just because there's going to be a lot of parlay action tied into this. As I mentioned earlier, the Packers and the Broncos and the Bengals, those undefeated teams aren't playing this week. And so there's not the huge parlay push on those teams. So the public kind of has to find another public darling to look at this week. And the Falcons at 6-1. They have that sex appeal to them. And then they're also playing the Titans. Mariota's injured. This one's gone from +3.5 up to +5 for the Titans. So the money is coming in on the Falcons. But as mentioned, it's going to be one of those things where they're going to draw a considerable amount of parlay action and teaser action on the Falcons, and that's going to be tied to the rest of the games throughout the day.
I'm actually seeing 5.5 at Heritage Sports.
There you go. Yeah,
as of this morning.
It could keep climbing. I don't think they will. They don't want to take it too far up. I don't know if they'll go up to 6, just because you don't want to get middled hard on that one. But it's going to be all Falcons money. That's for sure.
From what I saw, I believe yesterday, this game has 80-20 rule implications that over 80% of the action was coming in on the Falcons. So do you see this as an opportunity to say, all right, maybe wait until closer to game time to get the best number and fade the public?
I think you're going to really want to keep an eye on that Mariota situation and see how mobile he is. Because, you throw in Zach Mettenberger in there, and while Mariota is a rookie quarterback, he's proven himself to be a game changer. Now, if he isn't as mobile because of that sprained MCL, then that's absolutely something you need to watch out for. The Falcons really don't have that much of a pass rush. I think they only have maybe 7 sacks on the year, which is not, that's not Dan Quinn's MO. He wants to get after the quarterback. So I think if Mariota's in there and they see him that he's a little bit gimpy, they're going to throw the house at him and try to move him around the pocket.
All right, so let's go through some of the other games. We will start Rams at home, 6.5-point favorites taking on the Browns. And if you want to talk about the line or the over-under either way, just let me know when you want to jump in with one versus another.
Sure. Are we not looking at the England game since that is 9:30 in the morning?
Let's do it. Let's go there right out of the gate. We got the Bills taking on the Jaguars. Spread is 4.5. Over-under is 41.
I just have a sexy trend for that game, so that's why I wanted to make sure I got it in there. So at these UK games, the favorite has covered in 8 of the last 10 games played in London. That includes the previous one. I'm trying to think who was playing in that. What was the last early one? No, it wasn't Jaguars.
The Jets versus the Dolphins when Philby got fired.
That's the one, yes. Jets came through as the favorite in that one. And the favorite is 8-4 ATS in the 12 UK games overall. The over-under 6-6, so not a whole lot of value with the totals. But the favorite has been coming through in these UK-based games. This one's sitting, as far as last night, was +4 for the Jaguars.
All right. So now back to that Rams versus Browns game.
Yeah, I had to get that trend out, man. That's a good trend.
No, I like it a lot. Rams at home, 6.5-point favorites, taking on the Browns, a team that I think the Sharps have liked a little bit the last few weeks, over under 41.5.
This could be the Todd Gurley show.
Right.
Cleveland is not a good run defense. I was reading an ESPN article the other day, and they had allowed 23 runs of 10 or more, and 8 of those have gone for 20 or more yards. Gurley's had a nice 2 back-to-back weeks, comes off a bye week, gets the rest of that knee a little bit, and I think he's going to be the workhorse of this offense. They're going to see how much he can put up. So as far as your daily fantasy, your season-long fantasy, if you're looking at any rushing yard props, Todd Gurley, I think this could be the Todd Gurley Bowl.
But what do you think in terms of the line itself? So we know Gurley's good in the Rams, but we're also saying you're backing Nick Foles against the Browns, who I would say could be a live dog in this. They've at least been competitive the last few games under Josh McCown.
Sure, it's moved up 2 points, which is a pretty considerable move. Open 4.5, it's up to 6.5. I think more you're not betting on Nick Foles as you are betting on the Rams defense to get it going and getting pressure on McCown. I mentioned last week against the Broncos how Cleveland is a deep strike team. They like to look deep, and they need time for those plays to develop. The Rams have one of the best defensive lines in the league. They're not going to give them a lot of time to get those plays off. And if Gurley is running the ball, then Cleveland's not going to have a lot of time with the ball to begin with. So.
And sneaky DFS play for you. Look at the consistency of Travis Benjamin. His numbers since McCown has been there, I think he's been double digits on DraftKings every week so far this year. So
my kid's got him. He loves him.
Nice. All right, next we've got the Dolphins at home taking on the Texans. Dolphins are 4.5-point favorites, over under 44.5.
This one here, Dan Campbell, the new head coach there for the Miami, the interim head coach, he's really telling his team not to pat themselves on the back too much about this win last week. An interesting stat, Miami's 1-4 ATS in their last 5 games off a win. So this team has shown a bad habit of falling into those letdown spots. And after the beginning of the season that they had and then getting this big win with a new head coach, a new regime, there is that risk that they may let up a little bit. And this line has kind of come down a bit. It was -5, now -4.
When do you think we're going to see this Dolphins defense that was supposed to be as good as the Rams defense, which it was just supposed to be as good as the Bills defense, all 3 of which have not really hit the level like the Broncos defense?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you don't have things clicking by week 7, week 8, then I mean that you are what you are. So it might be now or never for that defensive line.
All right, next game, we have the Patriots at home taking on the Jets. Patriots are 7.5-point favorites. Over under is 58. Wow, that's a lot of love for the Patriots right there.
A lot of points. This one actually opened at 10, and it went down to 8, and now 7.5. So there is a lot of money backing the Jets in this game. The Pats have been at the center of some really crazy line moves this season. Obviously, week one was a bit of an up and down roller coaster ride with the Brady suspension because those lines could actually come out in the spring. Some bookmakers actually release those lines as early as like April, which is nuts. And that one went up and down. The week two line with Buffalo, they opened as an underdog in Buffalo. They closed as a favorite. They waxed Buffalo. The week three game against Jacksonville, they were 13.5 and they jumped to 14.5. It doesn't seem like a major line move, but they are crossing a key number on that of 2 touchdowns. And then the Cowboys game, that one was up and down. That one went as high as 10 and closed 8. They opened 7.5, so that one was all over the place. And then last week's game opened around 8.5 with teams with odds makers kind of padding that because of Andrew Luck's status, not knowing, and then it moving to 10 and then closing at 8. So the Pats have been at the center of some really, really crazy line moves this year, more than any other team I can remember in past years. And it's not centered around injuries, like in and out injuries, like if you had a star running back or star quarterback that may be questionable every week. It's not like that. It's just they are the most public bet team. I think the wise guys will be looking for chances to bet against them as the season goes on. But the public is still going to pound the Patriots because they are the Patriots, and they just seem to be putting on teams. So they, until they stop covering the spread, that's when that action will kind of die down, and we might see these lines settle down. But right now, it's a roller coaster ride trying to gauge these Patriots lines.
This is the best the Jets have been offensively that I can remember in years, with Brandon Marshall and Chris Ivory, both legitimate studs this year.
Yeah, Chris Ivory's just been awesome. I had him in DFS last week, and he was just fantastic.
Yeah, he was.
You see Brandon Marshall starting to get going now, too. When they have that pass game and a rush game and they can really control the ball, that's the one way that you need to beat the Patriots is that you need to control the ball and keep it out of Brady's hands. So we'll see what the Jets can do on Sunday.
4 straight 100-yard receiving games for Brandon Marshall. All right, up next, we have the Lions at home taking on the Vikings. The Vikings are 1.5-point favorites on the road, and over-under is 44.5.
Minnesota has a win over Detroit already this year. Beat them 26-16 as 2-point home favorites in week 2. And they're 6-2-1 ATS in their last 9 against the Lions. So we might see Minnesota continue to keep that up. It's really if they can get Adrian Peterson going and get Teddy Bridgewater going. That it's a roll of the dice with this Detroit team right now. You don't know what you're going to get from them. Calvin Johnson's looking good right now. But that running game is, Theo Riddick. We talked about Theo Riddick last week. He showed, some splashes of what he can do last week. Interesting to see what Detroit will come to the table with.
I'm not a fan of Teddy Bridgewater at all, and I've actually been on this soapbox all week on the different platforms of the things that I do. If you look at his numbers, he's, I believe, second fewest passing yards per game in the NFL, and he currently has 0 games this year where he's thrown 2 touchdowns or more.
Yeah, when you have Adrian Peterson, they're not asking you to do all the heavy lifting. He's a game manager. That's right. What he is. He's a second-year quarterback. He's not Andrew Luck, where he was, number 1 overall pick and going to light it up right away. But he's doing what he needs to do to get the job done. So if the Vikings can, get the ball in Adrian Peterson's hands, he can make a couple of throws to keep the defense honest. The Vikes have a good chance of putting it on the lines again.
Yeah, and in week 2, Adrian Peterson ran for over 130 yards against this Lions team, so expect lots of Adrian Peterson in this game. All right, next game we have the Titans at home taking on the Falcons. As you said, Falcons 5.5-point favorites, over under 47. I know we talked about this. Did you have any other thing you wanted to add to this?
No, like I said, it's really going to come down to the Falcons pass rush, and if they can get that going and get some pressure on Mariota or Zettenberg, who's ever in there, or Mettenberger, that's his name. Yeah. Hey, you're a backup quarterback. I'm not going to remember your name. Then they can get him to move around in the pocket and test that knee and see how mobile he really is.
All right, next game, we have the Redskins at home taking on the Buccaneers. Redskins are 3.5-point favorites. Over-under is 43.
This is a game that I looked at in my weekly mismatches column. And the Bucs have actually been a sharp play this week, some sharp action on the Bucs. But one thing I looked at is how slow Tampa Bay has started. They haven't scored a first-quarter touchdown all year. And then they go up against a Washington team that's only allowed 3.2 points per first quarter and actually has the second best first half defense in the league. They only allow 5.8 points per first half. Washington, a bit of an underrated defensive team, and that's what they've kind of leaned on. We'll see if Jameis Winston and Evans and Doug Martin can get it going early on, but that's been the one thing that I looked at here, at least if you're betting them, maybe the first quarter, the first half spreads and totals. Tampa Bay hasn't had a great first quarter, great second quarter team, averaged more than 9 points per second quarter, which is nuts. Kind of make up for it, but then you're going against, like I said, a Washington team that really slams the door early on, or at least they come out guns a fire and early on and keep teams out of the end zone.
Is there a will RG3 throw a pass in the NFL this year prop bet?
I see. I don't understand that. I don't understand why Cousins is still like, because Cousins couldn't be doing any worse than RG3 would have. I don't know why he isn't in there. Just to see, he's been sitting collecting dust for a long time. I don't think there's any harm in putting him out there other than giving the media something to talk about. So
I agree. All right, next game, Colts at home taking on the Saints. Colts are 4-point favorites. Over under is 52.
Cool trend with the Colts. They're terrific rebounding from losses. 15-2 straight up in the regular season games following a loss since 2012, and they've gone 14-3 ATS in those games. So they really come back with a vengeance. Put it on teams. They don't tend to lose twice in a row, which they did already this season. So maybe this isn't the Colts team we're used to. But if you go back to their last 23 games off a loss, they're 18-5 ATS. So that's a trend that does hold a little bit of water.
And this is also not the same Saints team that we're used to as well. This is definitely a team on the decline with a little bit of inconsistency. And I'm going to be looking, probably, this may be a very public way of thinking, but to be more on Andrew Luck because I do believe that he will be better. Him and T.Y. Hilton haven't clicked yet, so I don't think we've seen the best out of this Colts team.
Yeah, I was really hoping Andre Johnson would have a big year.
Yeah.
Just coming over, he's never really played with a terrific quarterback like Andrew Luck. And I was making comparisons to him and Randy Moss when Randy Moss came over to the Patriots, saying like, okay, now he's playing with a quarterback that can really get him the ball and really use him. And I was hoping Andre Johnson would kind of have that renaissance or that resurgence that Randy Moss did in New England, but it hasn't really happened. He actually had his best games with Hasselbeck under center. So I'm still waiting for Andre Johnson to pop. But we'll see. This one opened 6 and it's down to 4. So, if you are looking at the Colts, I think this is probably the best value you're going to get on them.
All right, Chargers at home taking on the Raiders. Chargers are a 3.5-point favorite. Over under is 47.
The Raiders have been a sharp play all year, and I actually do like the Raiders in this game. And here's why. In my mismatches column again, I'll shameless plug it. San Diego has been really beating up on opposing secondaries because they have a really, really tall receiving core. Like, none of these guys go shorter than 6'4". You got dudes that are 6'6" and 6'4" and 6'2". Keenan Allen is the runt of the litter, and he's 6'2", but he's a big 6'2". And they're really physical. They're not making clean catches. They're going up and grabbing the ball and overpowering defenders. So when they match up against the Raiders actually have one of the bigger secondaries in the league. And they are a really aggressive secondary. So I think Oakland is going to come out and really jam up those San Diego receivers. And they can kind of throw their weight around too. I don't think it's going to be as easy for San Diego's receivers to push around defenses as they have done the last, 3 games when Phillip Rivers is putting up Madden, video game numbers.
Yeah, and speaking of video game numbers, Phillip Rivers currently leads the NFL in yards passing.
They did a good job against him last November, too. They only held him to, I think, 193 yards and a touchdown. So that's, when you're considering it's Phillip Rivers and what he's been doing, that's pretty good.
All right, next game we have, as you mentioned, the Giants at home taking on the Cowboys. Giants favored by 3.5, over under 45.5. Anything else you want to dish about this?
Big week for Matt Castle. He had the bye week, but he also had his baby on the bye week.
There you go.
That's a baby that knows the game. My daughter was actually born on a Cowboys bye week 2 years ago, 2 Novembers ago. And I always was just like, yeah, she knew it was the bye week, and that's when she came. So he was expecting, I think, his 4th or 5th child, baby born on the bye week. He was able to get some family time in, able to get some football work in, a good balance. I think Matt Castle's in a good spot. I may just be a blindly optimistic Cowboys fan, but I think with Michael coming in and getting Randy Gregory back, I think the pass rush is really going to be something to watch.
So one, Christine Michael, super cheap on DraftKings. He's the minimum. And what do you expect out of Christine Michael? We don't have a lot to go on, but the rooter in me would like to be optimistic because I would love to see him get the shot and become the guy there and solidify that option for the Cowboys and DFS purposes.
Yeah, I think he's going to be a priority in the red zone. The Cowboys haven't had that break down the door back since Marion Barber. A guy, they could give it to 3 times when it's, first and goal, second and goal, third and goal, and the guy's going to get to the end zone. He's a very, very strong runner, and I think if the offensive line can give him some space, he can pick up some steam and do some damage. So I would see him maybe not putting up the highest rushing yard totals, but I could see him maybe scoring a couple touchdowns in this if they can get to the inside the red zone.
So that would make him a great GPP play out there, not for cash games. All right. 3 games left. We've got the Panthers at home taking on the Eagles. Panthers favored by just 3, over under 45.5. How about that respect the Eagles are getting right now, essentially saying neutral field, these two teams are even?
Still, it's kind of a messed up love affair with Chip Kelly and the Eagles. One week they look great and bettors want to bet against them, and the next week they look like crap and bettors are on them. This one, it's stayed pretty heavy, stayed pretty steady at 3.5. This is kind of what I think the spread is going to stay at. For me, this game is all about Cam Newton. They played Cam Newton last year when he was playing on a busted ankle. He had the bruised ribs. He was pretty much on one leg and wasn't Cam Newton, and they were able to sack him 9 times and really do some damage. This time around, Cam Newton looks like an MVP candidate. He's put this team on his back, and the Eagles haven't faced a quarterback like this year. They've really played possibly the least mobile slate of QBs. You look at the NFC East QBs that they've faced, these guys don't run. And going back to last year, they had given up some significant yards to dual threat quarterbacks, and even some guys that weren't dual threat quarterbacks, like Aaron Rodgers, we don't necessarily think of as a running quarterback, but he can move around. And Austin Davis, remember when he was heading the Rams offense?
Yeah.
He was a bit of a daily fantasy stud there for a few weeks. He came out and did some damage against them with his legs too. So while this defense has changed a little bit, they haven't faced a guy like Cam Newton. And the last time they did face someone like Cam, it was in off-season practice when they had Tim Tebow running the option in drills. So, and Cam Newton, I would like to say, is a much, much better player than Tim Tebow. So
all I want is the answer, no explanation to this. Better storyline, Sam Bradford the rest of the season on the Eagles or DeMarco Murray the rest of the season on the Eagles?
I think Murray. I think Chip Kelly wanted to have all these options to go with Ryan Matthews, Darren Sproles, but you've seen their numbers to kind of diminish, especially Sproles. Sproles has been a bit of MIA the last few weeks. And I think he's kind of realizing that his offense can be a little more simple if they're just giving it to DeMarco Murray, giving him space to run and letting him make plays.
Yeah, I agree with that. All right, we have the Chiefs taking on the Steelers in a game. When I checked, there was no spread on this because of the uncertainty of who will be the quarterback for the Steelers. Are you seeing a line out there?
Right now, no. I think there's no rush for them to put it out there. You may be able to find one online. The guys in Vegas aren't going to hang their necks out there on this one. There may be 1 or 2 places that have a lineup, but they would limit the amount of money that can come on this. They'd really lower their limits on this if they hung it out there, just because there is a huge difference between Ben Roethlisberger and Landry Jones. So, I still, from everything that I'm reading, it just sounds like they're going to go with Jones on this one.
I agree. So with Landry Jones under center, I have to imagine the Steelers are going to be underdogs. Let's call it 2.5 or 3 points there. What does that do for you? I think the Steelers seem to be a better team, but like we've seen, they've gotten through this gauntlet of Vic and Landry Jones by not turning the ball over. But Landry Jones has only played 1 half, and that can all change in one game. So that's the biggest apprehension I have for everything. The Chiefs don't really scare me right now. Losing Jamal Charles, the running backs didn't do much. The Steelers' weakness is their secondary. Alex Smith isn't going to be burning them down the field. So
I think Macklin's hurt too.
What was that?
Yeah, I think Macklin's injured as well too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, they've got Travis Kelce. So, I mean, you put an eye on Travis Kelce and you try to get that pass rush going against Kansas City. And they haven't been able to protect Alex Smith. So, and the defense for Pittsburgh, as we talked last week, is just, they're maturing very quickly, making some plays. And I mean, they were able to really check Arizona there a couple weeks ago. So it's, that's really kind of been the unsung hero for this team has been their defense.
Without a doubt, they're young and can continue to get better. That was my optimism for the Steelers this year. All right, last game, and we did talk about it briefly. Cardinals at home, taking on the Raiders. The number, what was that? I see it at 8. I think you mentioned 7.5, possibly over under at 48.
Yeah, it opened 7.5, and I've seen it as high as 9. As I said, this is going to be a very public game. It's going to have a lot of any parlays that exist from the Sunday are going to be tied to the Monday game. And I don't know, this line may get up to 10. Like I said, they don't really want to put themselves out there to get middle on such like the standalone games.
Right.
But the Ravens really haven't shown anything. Like I said, this is another tough travel spot for them. 5 road games in 7 weeks. Sometimes you're looking ahead to that bye week and just wanting to get away from losing football for a while. So, I could see why it could go higher. That's for sure.
I am all over Carson Palmer and Larry Fitzgerald in DFS, and I may even sprinkle in John Brown and do a 3-man combo.
Yeah, he had a huge week there last week. No touchdowns, but I think he had like 156 yards.
190.
190? Jeez.
On 10 receptions.
Jeez, I apologize, John Brown.
Right. All right, Jason. So time to give some shout outs and plugs. Where can everybody find you? Tell us what's sizzling, what's cooking with covers and everything that you're doing.
Sure. It's another busy weekend. We've got baseball, playoff baseball going tonight. Jay's got to win. We've got huge college football week. We've got Joe Fortenbaugh's column coming out today. For NFL Sunday, we've got we work with the Harvard Sports Analysis Collective, which is a bunch of Harvard students. They actually have a club, and they work some crazy analytics stuff, just some bonkers numbers, and they've been really spot on with the numbers. So I mean, if you're interested in analytics and some really in-depth stats, come and check those guys out on covers.com. I'll have the Muff Pump, which is kind of a fun NFL column. I'll be looking at home field advantages and some other little things throughout the NFL Sunday. And obviously follow us on Twitter because we're getting information from all the books, all the bettors, which teams are moving, injury updates, where the sharps are, where the public is. And it's really one-stop shop for all your football, baseball, hockey's going, preseason basketball is starting, that's on the go. Anything and everything, we've got it.
It is an absolutely fantastic time to be a sports fan. I found that I need about 6 TVs every weekend, and basketball hasn't even started yet.
Yeah, hoops starts next Tuesday, so it's another log on the fire, and then college hoops is usually around November, so that's going to get going. Yeah, it's definitely a busy time for us. This is our this is our Christmas, but it's also a very hectic time. A lot of late hours, a lot of manpower going into making sure we're not letting anything fall through the cracks.
Certainly. And as always, guys, you can follow Bacon Sports on any social media outlet you're at Bacon Sports. We'll be dishing football, basketball, baseball, everything all weekend like we always do. Jason, this was a blast per usual, and I am looking forward to talking to you next week, and have an awesome weekend, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. You too. Enjoy the games and good luck.
Boom shakalaka.